Hello, welcome to Comic Tropes. I'm your host, Chris. Folks, one of my favorite storytellers in comic books today is Daniel Warren Johnson. I've made an analysis of his storytelling techniques. I've had him on this show for an interview, and I've had him on my other channel for an interview at least once or twice. But he's doing a new project, and a last minute opportunity came up that I could talk to him. He's doing a crowd-funded art book. I thought that there were some interesting differences from what I saw about this art book than another one that you might see on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, etc. So I decided to sit down with him, and I'll just kick it over. This is me downstairs in my editing room talking to Daniel Warren Johnson about his upcoming art book. The link, if you're interested in the campaign, is in the description below. I encourage you to check it out. Let's see what he has to say. All right, and here we are, folks, again with Daniel Warren Johnson. Dan, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. How are you?
My pleasure. It's great to be back. I love the show. So here we
You're
are
very
once
kind.
again.
You're very kind. Well, I enjoy your show. I wasn't planning on, I guess, saying that, but you, of course, do pretty much a weekly live art stream, and it's just such a nice cool down at the end of the week. I just got to say, like, it's a really chill show that of course you could learn a lot from, but it's a really enjoyable show, so I hope you keep doing that. I hope you're getting something out of it.
Thank you very much. I barely feel like I can call it a show. I feel like more production energy needs to go into it. It's basically me just turning the camera on, drawing, and not really answering any questions.
That's why I say it's sort of a chill, like, cool down type of vibe, but the stuff that you draw will frequently get picked up as news stories because people are excited about your work. I think one example of that is this current art book that you have.
Mm.
It's a crowd-funded campaign. I have some questions I'll be asking specifically about who you decided to work with, but before I get too far, I thought it would be fair to set up for the audience. How far back would you say you decided to go with choosing artwork for your art book? How far back in your career or in your life? And how did you decide on a cutoff point?
It's a great question. I definitely thought about putting some of my old X-Wing drawings in there from when I was like 8, which are not terrible. Um, But I think the earliest that we ever made it, that we ever that make it into the art book, um, are around my college years, specifically my senior year of college, where I was working on some larger scale stuff, and I was actually trying to push myself with my art rather than just doing the bare minimum, which I was known to do in college, uh, as I'm sure a lot of your listeners have also done. But yeah, it was like that was the first year in my life that I really took my art seriously, and so my senior project uh, is actually included, and I'm still quite proud of it.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little cringe, it's a little like hard on the sleeve, but uh, I worked really hard at it. It was 15 feet long by a foot and a half tall, and very narrative in structure, and I worked on it for like a whole month. And I was like, yeah, I put enough time into this that I think it should go on my art book.
So we go back to, say, your senior year in college and you're doing something like that. Do you think that you ever thought that would end up in print on the scale that it's achieving now? Did you have, like, the ego to say, like, hey, someday people are going to see this, or was it not that ambitious at the time? I'm curious where you got when you got ambitious about making comics.
It was relatively unambitious, I would say, because I was making it for my senior grade, which is a huge part of my like graduation requirement. It's like my senior project. It's something that I basically had been conceptualizing or at least thinking about since the start of my senior year. And it wasn't until the early part of the spring semester of 2009 that I actually started, executing my vision. Uh, so I knew that there would be an art show that maybe my parents would come to. That was like during graduation week. Um, but and other than that, that's all I really had my mind on. It's just finishing it so I could present it. And the idea of me having it be in my art book, uh, you know, it did. I can honestly say that's not a reality that ever crossed my mind. And even now, in the art book, it is 15 feet wide. There's no way to truly translate how large it was. Um, it's so long that we actually had to do it like strip by strip on a spread of pages within the art book because there's just not enough space. Yeah,
Interesting. And we'll talk some more about what's in there, but let's talk about the format and who you're working with because I do think this is interesting. There's a lot of different ways to make an art book or an art of book. You famously did a really successful campaign for Extremity that included a beautiful art book, with actual color scans of the
yeah,
work, commentary of the process. That's one way you can do things. There can, of course, be the kind of stuff a lot of artists will have on their table at conventions, which is closer to maybe a zine or something. Like these aren't art books per se; these are some of your mini comics. But that format of a little bit closer to self-published. I personally like this. It's not an art book, but this is the French edition of Do a Powerbomb, which, not to take anything away from Mike Spicer, but in black and white, it's really interesting to look at artwork. But this is also the cleaned up artwork.
it's
And
true.
you've got like scans, I guess, of what you're going to present so that we can see the actual craft of it, right?
Mm,
Like a racing
yes.
or just like where the edges go. How did you decide what format it would take, and when did you start talking with John Flesk, the guy that's making this?
Well, I'll answer your second question first, and then I'll get to your first question. Um, my meeting John happened through my art rep Felix Liu from Felix Comic Art. Um, John has traditionally worked with more illustrators than necessarily comic artists. It's not exclusively illustrator focused when he makes his art books, but he is more of kind of a illustrator focused kind of curated collection of his books. And when he did do comic book artists, they would usually be from Silver and Golden Age years of the comic book spectrum. So as far as modern comic book artists, I think Felix kind of helped John I think Felix kind of slipped John a few of my comics and just tried to start a very natural and organic relationship that actually started with us having dinner together when I went out to visit Felix in 2021 to do some art projects with Felix. Um, and we just had dinner. Yeah, this was out in the Bay Area at the time.
Okay,
Um, and we just we had dinner, and John probably by Felix's design sat right across from me. We had a wonderful conversation about art and comics, and we just really hit it off. And to be totally honest, Felix did not sit me down and be like, "Hey, you're going to meet John Flesk. He's this big time publisher. He makes amazing books." He was just like, "I got a buddy coming," because it's like maybe eight of us. It was a big dinner. So I just found myself sitting, across the table from John, and we just really hit it off. And so again, very organic, very natural. And before we left dinner, he gave me a bunch of his art books to check out, and he had mentioned how much he was enjoying my comics and my stories. And
wow,
a few weeks later, we decided to start working together. And that was in 2021. So we have been working on this book for a long time.
great job, Felix, for setting it up for casual so that you didn't get in your own head or something. You just like were having a conversation with somebody. But for people that may not have
It's
read
it's
what
true.
John Flesk publishes, he's a very hands-on. You tell me if this is fair to say that he's very hands-on in terms of how he's going to present somebody's art. It's like a gallery owner or something, like trying to come up with how the show is going to look. Right? Is that fair?
100%. And you're exactly right. It is a big deal. And You know, that's one of the first conversations that we had. This is over Zoom in 2021, where he really sat me down. He's like, "Hey, before we work together, I'd like to let you know, like, I really love being a part, a integral part of the layout process of the design aesthetic. Like, I consider this to be," he said that he considers this to be his kind of art form and how he presents books and how he puts things together. And I had seen his art books, and I was like, well, your work's awesome, and I do not have the time to lay out a 180-page book. Um, so I say, let's do it. Let's do it. And sure enough, through the years that we were working together on this book, I was thinking that maybe I'd see like a PDF here and there, but um, about halfway through the process, he said, I don't really show uh, PDFs to the artists that I'm working with of the book until I really feel like it's in this really good, confident place. And sure enough, I don't think I saw a PDF until maybe 2 months before we went to print.
No kidding.
Um,
So you'd been working on
yeah,
this about 4 years straight. You hadn't really seen work in progress. I assume you guys had been talking to exchange art and make choices.
100%. And it was one of those things where it was like a boulder getting pushed down a very shallow hill, and then the boulder would go a little bit steeper, 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 steeper until it's like basically time to go to print because he usually focuses on maybe 2 to 3 books at a time. So he has these things kind of in the pipeline that he's working on very intensely. And so he'll be slowly asking for little things or little additions, or maybe for like each chapter break, there's like a brushed, like commissions for comic art, cover work, things like that, where he needed me to actually like ink it and scan it really high res and send it to him. And that was like 2.5 years ago that I did that. Um, so he would ask for different things, usually pretty um, small asks, as he would slowly start to put the book together. And then as we got closer and closer to 2025, uh, we got a little more intense with like the things that we needed to do and my involvement with it as well.
Let me loop back to something I was talking about a little earlier, but that now we've set up is how do you come up with a selection process for what you're going to do? Because even if you say like okay, there was a piece from college, you sort of started doing stuff like Space Mullet 2012, that we're talking over a decade of work anyway. We're talking over a decade of comics, sketches, commissions, covers, all sorts of different
Yeah.
art. How do you come up with a selection process? Did you guys like decide it would be chapters or just your favorite pieces, or what?
Well, that was one thing that I did have a lot of autonomy over. John really did leave most of the decision making up to me when it came to what I wanted to include. I found myself honestly looking through a lot of my old Instagram posts and just kind of remembering the feeling that I had while drawing these things, and it's a nice kind of curated way to look at my career, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Um, because honestly, I forget about the things that I draw. Like, there's some things that I've drawn that have been really awesome, and I'll just forget that I do them because I've done so many. That could be panels, covers, pages, commissions, little sketch for a friend that I've scanned and is in some dark recess of my hard drive. Um, it's all over the place. And so that was a really intentional and kind of intense thing that I had to do, was to like really comb through all of my folders on my computer and all my sketchbooks, and like looking through Instagram again. Instagram was kind of like the hits, like looking back at my hits, and then but that's only one part of my artistic process. I won't lie. Like even I feel like I have a fairly healthy social media presence, but even something like Instagram is very curated. People are getting the best of what I have to offer. Whereas there's a lot of humble stuff in this art book. It's the building blocks of what make a story and what make a sketch, yeah, and what make a commission, what make a cover.
That's interesting. So, is there commentary and stuff, or like for instance, are you explaining in any of these pages why something does or does not work, or what the process was in creating it? Is there commentary like that?
Yeah, and John and I sat down for at least 10 long Zoom sessions where he would uh, show me basically a few sections of the PDF, maybe 15 to 20 pages at a time. And I would talk with him over Zoom about every piece, and he would transcribe the whole Zoom session. And then Rachel, my wife, would go through and kind of help me edit and take out any like double sentences, or making things sound like a little bit more like I know what I'm talking about.
But I love that. So he was getting authentic reactions from you to your artwork. Boy, I bet if anybody knows this show, it might be you. Do you ever watch Naoki Urasawa's Manben?
Oh, 100%. Love that show.
That sounds like taking that idea of like really interviewing an artist about their specific process on a specific piece and translating it into print form.
That's exactly right. And John actually told me, he said in all of his art books, he's never had as much commentary as he has in this one.
No kidding. Okay, well
Yeah.
then that's something unique that like we as readers could get. That makes me wonder, when you were deciding to put this together, did you leave this to John, or did you have any thoughts on who this was supposed to be for? Like, is this book aimed at anyone, any section of a target in particular?
Well, I would hope that anybody that enjoys art would be able to appreciate it. But I gotta say, I'm kind of making it for the artist in myself that really gets excited when I see other art books that are really done well, have been well thought out, that have been well curated, that have been well printed, that have been designed well. I can pick out a few that, have changed my artistic life, my artistic path just because they revved me up so much. They're big pieces of my collection that have had a huge um, impact on how I've grown as an artist. And so I think if anything, I was maybe making it for that artist and myself, and hopefully the artists out there that are looking for a little bit more of that are looking for a spark. That
Okay.
I know there are artists out there that love my work and are inspired by it, and that is incredible. And I kind of want to give them a boost with this book because I know what amazing art books have done for my journey, and so I want to do the same with my own art book, honestly.
Well, and you can't put words like this on yourself, but without seeming like a jerk. But that sounds to me like aspirational, which is
Mm.
something that I get excited by when I look at an art book, and I'm like, oh, I don't need to copy that, but that gets me excited
Oh,
for drawing a character in this perspective, or oh, look at what they've done with this composition. I got to try something like that. I
exactly.
love art books that do stuff like that. I was very excited to see what you've created as not an add-on. What do you call it? Like a stretch goal that you've included. That there's
Yes,
this sort of zine on your process, or not process,
yes.
but your tools. Right? Look at that. So are you taking elements of that, or is that like the full piece? Because I see a couple tools repeated there, like Posca pens and airbrushes and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that.
One of the whiteout pens looked bad, so I redid it on the same page. Yeah, there you go. I did it all on one piece of paper, and I just sent this to John, and he's putting them. He's putting them on different pages. It's not just one spread. Um, but the project is called Line Time with Daniel Warren Johnson. Here's the cover. Um, there's me, and it's just a way for me because John, we had such an amazing reaction and response to the book. And, it really blew up on Kickstarter. We were just so blown away. And John emailed me and he said, I just want to do a thank you for the people that have already backed the book. And if anything, it will make people more excited who haven't backed. Here's an extra thing that just gets included for free. It's not an
Wow.
add-on or anything. It just goes in every single one. And I love that idea. And John's initial idea was let's do maybe some of the pieces that almost made it into the book but didn't quite make it. And I said, I love that idea. But if we're going to do an add-on, I want it to be something that kind of complements the art book rather than is a little bit of a contrast rather than like back matter, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And yeah, so I said, what about if I do a drawing of my main tools
I
and
love
it
it.
will be like a little comic book tool zine that, you know, and I'll have yeah, yeah, it's really fun. And with that would come comment. So with it will sorry, it's happening. It's going to the printer within a few days. With each illustration comes a commentary that goes with that tool, in addition to a like really zoomed in section of one of my pieces that has an example of me actually using that tool.
And so you're not even talking about just like brush pen, you're saying like this specific tool is what I
Yes,
like to use because of XYZ.
exactly.
There's a bunch of artists in comics that use multimedia, I'll call it. A Bill
Mm,
Sienkiewicz, a Jim Mahfood, and if you watch your live streams, you yourself will like bust out quite a few more tools than the average artist.
mm.
So it really is interesting to dive into that. I think that a lot of if you haven't gone to art school, a lot of this will be new for some of your readers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Also, like, I do this, it's my job. I do it every day. I don't quite draw for 8 hours a day, but there are days where I come quite close to that. And after doing that since basically 2012, stumbling over different supplies, figuring out what works and what doesn't, I have a really solid understanding of all of these tools and all their little idiosyncrasies, which I do reveal in this little zine.
I
So,
love that. I love that. You're gonna if any comic artist out there is going to get an endorsement deal, I see somebody like Jet Pens coming to Daniel Warren Johnson and getting like you're gonna invent your own nib someday. Maybe that's a ways off, but that could happen someday.
you know what I should have done? We're already going to go to print, but I should have like emailed JetPens and been like, "Hey, if we put your logo on the back, will you take care of printing?"
It's so exciting for us that enjoy your stories to know that you can find these partners to put something out and still have the time on your plate for your creative energies. I mean, you made a lot of comics this past year. If we just like go back 1 year, Transformers, do a power, not do a power bomb. The moon is following us.
Yep.
You did a story for Wolverine. You're doing this absolute
Uh-huh.
Batman story. Like
Yep.
you're doing a lot
Ton
of
of covers.
a lot of covers.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
Post
geez.
Malone was just like, I assume, just calling you up personally and saying like, D Dubs, I need you to do a cover of a. You've done a
Believe it
lot
or
of.
not,
I
I've
just
never
realized.
actually talked with Post Malone in
Did
person.
you?
No, I never have.
No.
So,
But you know what? I just realized you've done a lot of big rig trucks, probably more
yes,
than anyone else, because you've got Ghost Fleet and Transformers on top of Big Rig.
it's true.
So the ideal story for you would seem to be stuff with trucks and stuff where people lose an arm or a hand, if not a family member.
Now I need to have a truck roll over somebody's hand. Make it complete.
A one-page story. If I did, this is everything I know. I don't know. I'm getting off topic, but
It's all good.
we've only got like a couple days left on this campaign, and I wanted to talk about it just because a lot of people will do their own art books and stuff. You're doing something very unique here with John Flesk, and it seems exciting. And I just wanted to get a little insight into that process.
Thank you so much. And I mean, thank you. It really means a lot. And thank you to all the people that have supported it already. I think by the time your viewers are actually watching this, there'll be like maybe 12 to 15 hours left on the campaign. So
Maybe fast.
please don't miss out.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, whatever. I don't
get it out as
whatever it is,
fast as
right?
possible. But yes, you're right. There are definitely going to be people finding it in the last final hours.
Yeah, and that's great too. I love that. And I don't know. I'm just really thankful and I'm really excited. It's so it feels so good to feel sorry. It feels so good to be so proud of something, you know, and like have because it's not cheap, it's an expensive book, but I'm like I so believe in my heart of hearts that this is worth people's money. I can't wait for people to hold it in their hands. I think it's gonna be great.
That's awesome, Dan. Hey, thanks again for giving us some of your time. Folks, there'll be a link in the description below. Check it out and let me know what you think about like this campaign and stuff in the comments below. And also, just let me know what you like in an art book. That would just be interesting to see in the comments below. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, as always, my thanks to not just my guest, Daniel Warren Johnson, but also all of you for watching this. I love it when you hit things like and subscribe. That helps the channel. Thank you to my patrons for making this possible. And I will see you in just like a day or two for another episode that I've already finished editing. So until then, you know what I'm going to tell you. Keep reading comics.